Podcasting from the Lone Star State in Southern California, you're listening to the Coma Podcast with Cody and Matt.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the ComaCast. It is May 18th, 2021. We thank you for joining us. Today, we're going to be talking about a new bathroom bill in Tennessee. Of course, we keep talking about these trans bills happening throughout the country. We're also going to be talking about the fact that police have been banned from New York City Pride effective immediately. And we're going to talk kind of about some of the reasons that this is happening, obviously, because LGBTQ people are 6 times more likely than general public to be stopped by police. Plus, we're going to have some headlines, all of that coming up. But Matt, we've almost made it through the work week. I know for me, it's kind of been relaxing. I got some things done. I got some gardening done. It's just been an enjoyable week. I am ready for the weekend though. Hopefully, it's going to be a fun one. Of course, me and Justin are both vaccinated. So I think we might, when we pick up our wine, we might go inside and do wine tasting. Of course, it'll be outside. They do outside wine tasting, but I might venture into doing that. I mean, of course, now, not in California. We can't go maskless in California till mid-June, but I feel like I might be comfortable enough to like venture out and do something in the public. Ooh.
We were at the gym this last weekend and a few times this week, but now it's also starting to die down greatly. I still don't like to go when it's busy. I've never really liked going to a busy gym. Not because I'm self-conscious. I want to be able to do, I have always found that people go to the gym just want to go do their thing and get the hell out. I have never had anybody give me weird looks. I've never noticed anybody's, well, I did have the guy taking pictures last year. It was at a totally dead gym and that was really uncomfortable. Yeah, that was still a super weird experience. I never saw that guy again either.
Matt, you have some weird experiences with that. And then, of course, on Tuesday, you told us about the post office situation. Like, I feel like you just are a magnet for these awkward.
No, these are events that have happened over the span of a year or two.
True.
This is not like weekly things. These are more like punctuations. But I'm looking forward to, so tomorrow on our live show, we'll be talking about our very first actual sponsor, and who is a good friend of mine. So I'm super excited to talk about it. And he's such a good friend of mine, and I support him entirely. I've actually done work for him before to support him doing his businesses. So it's super exciting to be able to work with somebody and help collaborate. It's collaborating with somebody who they're a real person. It's not just some corporation being like, here, talk about this for 10 seconds and whatever. This is somebody who I care about, who's a family friend of ours and cares about us. So he's always been really supportive of us doing the podcast. So he knew when I quit my job 2 years ago, this month, actually, last week, 2 years ago, on the 15th, I think. The 15th was my last day of work. And I can't believe it's 2 years later.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I still can't believe it's been 2 years since. And a lot's happened. Everything got kind of put back an entire year, which none of us were expecting. That cost us a great amount of time, in academia, but it's okay. It's rolling forward now. We got accepted to nursing school. But it's been, I'd say, a good week.
That's good.
I'm just sore from. It's the first week back to the gym, so your hurts.
Body's still getting.
I'm sure, like if you heard Tuesday's show, I yawned, I stretched once, and I gasped in pain.
You know, Gabe.
I still am in pain.
Gabe has been off tour. He was on the Cats tour doing hair and makeup, and obviously everything got canceled last year, and so he's been back in San Diego here hanging out with us for this whole past year. But the theater he worked at before he went on tour, that I always go and see musicals at, they are having a summer season. Since everything is kind of getting back to normal, they're outdoor theater, so it's pretty safe in general. Even before all this vaccine stuff started being so positive. But anyway, he went up there was helping with auditions this weekend, and he texted me like, I don't know, like at 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, and was like, oh my God, I've almost gotten my full like exercise workout in for the day, because he has the Apple Watch, and like it showed like the percent. Like I'm like, because normally like by 10 a.m. like he maybe has gotten up out of the bed like once to come to the kitchen to get like a drink or something, but then he like was like the next, or that night after the whole day, he was like, oh my God, my body is going to kill me. Because he hasn't used everything that he's been doing for like over a year, and then to like go in and just like straight have to like full out, like it's a lot. So yeah, I feel
being
like
suddenly
everybody
active, and I haven't been able. I've been in the same position where I haven't been able to be active, and we're active as much as we can, but we weren't even able to run here as we have a stray dog issue here. That after one really unnerving experience, I was like, I'm done. That was the end of it after years of it. And we've tried to be active, being out at like the missions, hiking and stuff, a couple 4 to 6 hours a week, which has made some of the transition back. Like I biked like 7 miles the other night, and I think it was Sunday, I biked 7 miles, and then I got on the treadmill or on the Stairmaster and did 20 floors immediately after, but I did it quick.
Yeah.
I warmed up, and then I tried to get the 20 quick to finish my workout. And I could hardly lift my legs when I walked out of the gym. It took me about 40 minutes to do all of that. But I set myself to a mental pace, and then I just watched YouTube or listened to music. And I texted you. I did text you from the bike, because we, and Cody was like, "Are you a Brittany or Christina?" And he goes, "I'm a Kelly." When he brought that up. So
totally
I was listening to Kelly Clarkson while I was on my bike, and so I sent it to Cody. I was like, I'm also a Kelly.
I'm excited. I'm excited for Kelly, because as we heard last week, Ellen is going to be ending her show after her 19th season, which I think next year will be the 19th season. Obviously, there can be conversation about that, but we won't have that. But
yeah, I don't want to talk about it right now.
Kelly Clarkson, she will most likely, by all indications, is just in general how things work in daytime talk and daytime television and rating levels. She will probably get all of the spots that Ellen has, and Ellen has the premier spots because they're before evening news or like the 5 o'clock news in different cities. So it's like the perfect spot. But Kelly Clarkson's going to get those spots. But meanwhile, that will be happening when Ellen leaves. Kelly Clarkson's ratings are almost equal to Ellen's now. So my girl from Texas,
I love Kelly's show. Actually, when I catch some of it on YouTube every now and then, I sit and watch it, because I have always been such a huge Kelly Clarkson fan. Don't get me wrong. I was a Brittany and Christina fan. I did not see why we had to choose one. We could be all of the above. And I was. But yeah, huge Kelly fan. And she actually had Christina on her show, and it was a really fun segment to watch.
Well, I don't want to, this is a preview for things to come, but if everybody wants to tune in tomorrow afternoon or whenever, you'll have to check your time listings for when the Kelly Clarkson show appears. But
Cody does not do time zones.
Well, it airs in different time zones, so I don't even know. You'd have to look in your individual city what time Kelly Clarkson show airs. But tomorrow, Friday, I will be on the Kelly Clarkson show. You will see me a lot. I am going to be behind actor Eric Bana. He came on the show, and well, my face is on a big television screen that's almost as equal as Eric Bana's television screen, because he was Skyping in. You see my face a lot. So
do you get to talk?
I don't get to talk, sadly. I want to one day go in and be able to like pick the song that she sings. We'll see. We'll see how that works out. But
that's so exciting.
I'll make an appearance Friday.
I had no idea. Well, I've gained an idea over the last 2 years that I work with a secretly huge star, and that Cody, just like does this cute little project for his friend who's all like, "Oh, good for you. Look at him trying." And when I make suggestions, he's like, You guys, this dumbass.
I'm excited. We
I'm
filmed
very
it.
happy for
We
you.
filmed it in April, and so it's finally coming out. That's also some secret
I remember
magic.
that.
Secret magic of television. But yeah, so tomorrow, and if not, I'll pull a clip and we'll show it on Friday evening show. But and
Obviously,
then of course
we totally have to see our Cody on
All right.
TV.
Friday at 5:00 Pacific, we have our live show, so be sure and tune in there. Okay, let's get to some headlines here. There's some pretty good ones from around the country and around the world. The one from the world I love. I think Matt's going to get to read that. But first off, Universal has yanked Laverne Cox's movie from international distribution. Her voice was dubbed by a man. Now, Universal Pictures has postponed and rescheduled the distribution for that Academy Award winning film, Promising Young Women, in Italy and Spain, due to a cisgender male dubbing the voice of the character played by Laverne Cox. I don't know how that happened, obviously, because usually everything within the chain of the studios is pretty much tracked. But for that to happen, it clearly was an oversight from someone. Thankfully, someone caught it before it was released, because not only is that just a bad thing for them to have done to begin with, but PR wise it would have been a disaster for the studios. But thankfully they're doing the right thing and did postpone the film, which is a big thing, as far as movie studios is going to postpone something, and obviously it's going to have to be redubbed, but they did the right thing, and it will be coming out at a future date. Okay, now Matt, this next story is the one that I was talking about that I think is just like a really great story.
I think so too. I saw it. I was really excited to go through it. So a recent college grad becomes the world's first elected non-binary mayor. Owen J. Hurcomb, 23, was elected mayor of Bangor, Wales, a city of over 16,000. They said, in quotes, "When I came out 2 years ago, I was so worried I'd be ostracized by my community or worse," they said on Twitter on May 10th. "Today, my community elected me mayor of our great city, the youngest ever mayor in Wales, and the first ever openly non-binary mayor of any city anywhere."
Yes,
So
in the world. Wow. Yeah, I thought it was the cutest thing. Like, you can look online and see photos. We'll post it up on Twitter, pictures. Such happiness from that day being elected. I think the craziest thing, the first open non-binary mayor of any city in the entire world. Like, that's pretty crazy.
That is huge. Yeah, and I'm sure we've had non-binary leaders before, but to have them be able to live openly is just wonderful, because I think people do their best work when they can be their authentic selves.
For sure.
And it's such a, after going through this, it almost kind of softens the blow a little bit of the next adventure here.
So this one, I guess there can be nothing really positive from this, but at least it would be something. But the House has passed a bill to designate the Pulse nightclub a national memorial. Now the bill will go to the Senate. Now previously the House passed a resolution last year as well to make the Pulse nightclub a national monument, but it died in the Senate because Senator Marco Rubio of Florida refused to support it. We'll see where this goes.
He's actually a giant asshole.
Yeah, we'll see where this goes forward. There's hope that it will get through the Senate and pass. Obviously, Democrats have the majority with the tiebreaker, so we'll see. Hopeful for that, so that there could be at least some kind of memorial, a national memorial, because that would allow money to be put into it, and it's just helpful for
and be cared for
any memorials. Yeah, for sure.
So a Montana man was convicted of consensual gay sex in 1994 and won't have to register as a sex offender. So he was convicted in Idaho of, and I end quotes here, crimes against nature with another teenager, and spent 7 years in prison before being released. 7 years.
Insane.
Mentis was 18 at the time he had sex with two 16-year-old boys. If the boys were 16-year-old girls, it would have been legal, since the crimes against nature law only applies to sodomy and oral sex. While the Supreme Court overturned sodomy laws in its 2003 Lawrence versus Texas decision, the state says they will appeal the ruling. Like, are you kidding me? Like
they say they want to appeal the ruling because they don't want lawyers coming into their state trying to overturn all these other things. But it's like, okay, but the thing is wrong. This whole law was ridiculous to begin with.
Don't let doing the right thing get in the way of, winning. But anyway,
insane. I guess thankfully he has been released from prison. Doesn't make up for those past 7 years that he had to deal with the way the laws work in many states. And if you look at laws throughout the states in the United States, you will find some pretty crazy laws like this. Thankfully, the Supreme Court overturned sodomy law specifically in that 2003 case. And this next one, Tennessee is enacting a law that will allow youth, quote, a reasonable accommodation to avoid trans kids. Now, the new law will require schools to allow cis students an opportunity to opt out of sharing facilities with trans students. Governor Bill Lee called it the right's latest bathroom bill, a, quote, smart approach. Again, we've talked about many of these trans bills and trans sports bills. There's over 50 plus trans bills currently at states throughout the United States. I would, if you were in any state and you don't know if your state has one of these bills or multiple bills, I would look it up and then I would contact your congressperson for your state, because it's happening in most of the United States. And the only way we can do is to speak out about it. Not that necessarily will help, but it can put pressure, because hopefully we won't have many more of these, but I'm sure we will be talking about them more. And we are back. And Matt, you were really excited about this one.
Yeah, it even caused us a hell of an awkward blooper, because I thought this. Right. So the next topic is actually something that is a lot more common than I think people realize. And as we move into a more openly speaking society where people just don't assume that if somebody's gay, they automatically have a sexual identity of like top, bottom, reverse. Some people don't like to have sex, or not into it, doesn't appeal to them, et cetera, whatever the reasoning may be. So it's time to recognize sides as a legitimate sexual identity. A side means a sexual preference first recognized in 2013 by sex and relationship therapist Dr. Joe Court. He wrote an article titled Guys on the Side, Looking Beyond Gay Tops and Bottoms for Huffington Post. In the piece, he asks, what if a guy isn't a top, a bottom, or even versatile? What about gay men who have never engaged in anal sex and never will ever? This is actually really common. And if you scroll through Twitter or you post about it, you will find a lot of people will surprise you and say that they don't really enjoy penetrative sex. Mm-hmm. Sides, who, for those who may be unfamiliar, represent the queer men who do not enjoy giving or receiving anal penetration. Instead, they prefer less invasive acts like oral sex, kissing, frottage, aka dry humping, massage, and mutual masturbation, to name a few. In 2011, researchers from George Mason University surveyed 25,000 gay and bisexual men and found that only 35% had participated in penetrative anal sex. What's more, almost 3/4 said that they prefer kissing, oral sex, and so on. And I can completely understand why.
I was honestly shocked at that number, Matt. Only 35% had participated in penetrative anal sex. Yeah, I was honestly surprised that it was that low, because that's pretty low. It's a higher number who have not.
Well, it goes to show you that Twitter life and media is not necessarily reflective entirely of real life, and again, you'll find, I mentioned this on Sunday night because we talked about this a little bit. You'd find that a lot of the personalities that you see on Twitter that you would think would be very hypersexual people, it stops at a certain limit. Just because somebody, you find them really attractive, does not mean they want to sleep with you in a penetrative way. And so it's important to recognize that boundaries and communication. And you'll find that a lot of people prefer that, more of that side role or identity, because they've kind of gone along with top, bottom, versatile identity because they're expected to. It's like, oh, well, I'm seeing this person, I guess I'm going to sleep with them. And then they kind of fall into the one that they hate the least. Mm-hmm. And that's okay. We should respect what each people want. I'm good friends with several people who identify as sides, and they're perfectly happy. And there are so many people that I think identify in that role and are perfectly content with it. And we make sure that we're respecting these boundaries and not telling them that, oh, you just need the right dick. That is inappropriate.
I think it's one of those things. Hopefully, it becomes easier for people to, if they're comfortable sharing this or just becoming kind of a norm, but that people are very fluid in their sexuality. They're very fluid within the whole world of sex. And so like we've talked about earlier in the season, talking about asexual, and then now this side, there's so many different levels of things, and it's so fluid, and people aren't necessarily one or the other, or there could be periods of times that they are more towards one, and then later on they could be more siding towards something else. And I think that is something I think that is hopeful looking forward, that we become a society that is more accepting of just letting a person be who they are and not worrying about so many like labels. I know we label everything right now, but if there could come to a point where we just let people be who they are and recognize that people are very complex. It's not so black and white.
People really aren't black and white. And the more you get to, it's like when, people that take time to get to know their grandparents and great grandparents, they find that there was so much more to their life than raising their children and doing whatever you think was expected of them back then. They had thoughts, they had feelings, things they did and didn't like, preferences, and things they didn't like, things they wish they had done. And as we spend more time now, we're learning about ourselves. It's become more and more acceptable to learn about yourself at a younger age and explore that and express that. And who you are and what you like at 18, 20, and 22 may not be who you are and what you like and do at 30, 32, and 34. I can just say I have definitely grown through various periods and shifts, and things go back and forth because I'm human. And very rarely the only thing static about me is, my temperature. I mean, and that's not a unique thing. I don't think that's unique at all. But I'm so glad. So Cody actually found this topic and he put it on here. And I'm so glad, because I love when we talk about stuff like this. I think it's so important. It's so relevant to our community, and that more people need educated, not just our rising generation, but those of us already in existence. And, it might give a word to something, much like knowing that I was gay without having the words to describe that I was gay. You don't really fit the normal binary that you see on TV. But the more you come out, you find it's not even like an underbelly. There's an entire thriving community of people who can understand me, who just get it. Well, when we talk about topics like this, it helps bring so many more topics to light and opens up the discussion and conversation to make more people feel, like, hey, you are here. We see it. You can be seen, and you can be seen so other people can see you. And I think that does a lot to help with inclusion and diversity. And that's just that's just 2 cents.
So hopefully, now people are more aware. Like we said, I had not heard of sides before. And so
really, I'm actually surprised by that.
I had not. So if you haven't, now you know some things. And then of course we gave you that number again. I was a little shocked about that. 35% hadn't participated in penetrative anal sex. You learn something new. Even sometimes we do. This story, Matt, is really just a horrible story. And essentially there was a crowd of men who showed up to a house at a university, banging on doors and windows and yelling, saying, let us in. This isn't your home. This is our home. Now inside, residents of the Franz House, an on-campus home for LGBTQ students at Bucknell University in Pennsylvania, they locked the entrances and watched the windows, terrified. Now, so ridiculous, but some of the mob urinated on the front porch, swung metal bars at flagpoles, displaying the pride flag. Now, the campus police arrived. And, we mentioned on Tuesday the whole issue of LGBTQ and police officers and law enforcement and how there's distrust between those two groups. Well, in this case, that continues on because when the campus police officers did arrive, guess what, Matt? They bonded with the men trying to break in rather than those rattled residents of the home. Now, the university officials have announced that they have hired an outside firm to investigate what they call horrific incidents. Now, Bucknell President John Braveman condemned these actions, saying, "We are both outraged and sorrowful that the residents endured this violation of the space that is so critically important to them as a community. These actions will not be tolerated."
That's terrifying.
Wow.
And not surprising. And again, this is why it's actions like this that continue to, it's not even eroded, to continue to deepen the division between the possible sense of security they could feel from having an officer. Because from the time we are able to walk and talk, we are trained, if you're in trouble, go get an adult or go to the police. Look for the police officer. The police officer will help you.
Yeah.
Right. And the campus security people are specifically there to protect their students. That
I mean, you should
I
feel
don't
a
think
sense
a lot
of safeness, a safe space.
There's not a lot to say on this. I mean, Cody said pretty much all of it. And again, continues to reinforce why independent investigations and reviews are important, why consequences are a real thing, because the more people are focusing on this, the more it comes out of these stories of things like this happening. This is not unusual. Now, are LGBT houses being stormed every weekend on college campuses? No. But similar stories and people being traumatized by what should be, the police or security, people that are supposed to be there to help the people being victimized.
Yeah.
Gross.
Hopefully this outside firm, when they investigate this, there'll be some things put into place to help make this university campus a little bit more safe for everybody involved. Obviously, it's these institutions that right now tend to be open to change more so than the actual police forces in different cities and states. So, we have to start somewhere. And so this is a great place, hopefully, that they will start making some positive changes, that campus police can be for everybody, and that they can help rebuild that trust that was completely lost in this just ridiculous incident that should have been like pretty cut and dry what the problem was and who was responsible for the situation. But that is the world we live in, I guess. Good or bad, it is what it is.
Right now. And that's, again, what all this stuff is being brought to light. It's not just to complain about it. It's to bring on accountability and change for a more inclusive future for, rising generations to not have to see it. There's no reason we have to accept the status quo. I think it was Ayanna Pressley recently at a college graduation said, "Do not accept the world as you've inherited it." That is incredibly good advice, because we should always be working to make sure that we're improving and doing what we can to continue to make it better and be resourceful, because we find that things that maybe worked 50 years ago don't work because we learned that, it's really bad for the environment. It's really destructive to this group of people. All of us exist. Like, I don't need to justify my existence, and I just looked, we mentioned the tweet from Tuesday. At this point, 6,300 people have seen it, and it's rapidly becoming one of my most no, I don't have a big account, but it's rapidly becoming one of my most liked tweets ever by people who don't follow me or I've never seen before, because they identify with it. They get it. They've been there,
Yeah. Crazy.
So, yeah, it's just, and that was just like me passing a flippant thought. That wasn't even a violent interaction. The guy was just like, "Oh, well, okay." Once he kind of realized what was happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, he brought it on himself. I didn't volunteer the information until he doubled down on it. But it was a total lack of social awareness. And I live in a really blue area.
Mm-hmm.
Several people told me that, we know it's Texas. I'm like, no, Texas is not necessarily what you see on TV, like especially San Antonio. We're a huge, huge, huge city.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is not possible without you guys.